I can't
This
actually.
meeting is being recorded.
I should have checked first. Do I say Morowa? Morowa? How do I pronounce your name properly?
Oh, yeah. It's Morowa Yehudi.
Okay, Morowa
Mhm.
Yehudi. So my name is Shantali Gander, and I'm here with Morowa Yehudi to talk to her about your contribution for Sign and Breath Anthology. So why don't we start with you reading that piece for us?
All right, thank you very much. So this piece is called Blasphemy. With these words I blaspheme, because I'm a writer, and by nature I care less about what others think than about the happenings in my head. So I say this now, decipher it how you must. I'll start in the middle, out here in the Badlands. That's where the blood and guts are, where birth and destruction reign. Because everyone is busy running and jockeying and jousting and trying to survive the fray. There is the vigilance against destruction of social media platform and profile. There is the tireless culling of reviews and choices and picks scraped from the bottom of riverbeds like fool's gold. The old Zulu flank the new. Balkanized groups born of aged interests shift alliance for proximity to fire and gaze. The stench of decomposing egos and ripe arrogance chokes the air. And there is no writing life for me. There is no cabin in a stand of 300-year-old trees, no roaring fire, no antique typewriter or mahogany desk. There's just my life and how writing fits into it. I check the chinks in my armor and prepare to escalate, because beyond the boundaries of one battle, there lies a larger one, and my family within it. We are man, woman, and 3 boys, a tribe of 5, reading cloud formations and checking the direction of the wind, raw and exposed to the elements. Because my sons look like Emmett, Trayvon, Michael, and the others. Because my husband looks like Rodney, Dante, George, and the others. I make deals with God and use anger, fear, and hope, 3 inexhaustible fuels. I commune with long dead writers and tap out tidings, epistles, and prophecies. I wipe the blood spatter from my face and return to the combat zone. Because my triumph lies now, lies not in the beginning or the end. My victory is in the middle, a teller whose only weapon is in the telling. In the dark, I strike a match to thought and scroll words on the walls of oblivion. Some say they have lived the realms I've written. Herein is my manna. Herein is sustenance for my ages. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Let's start with, can you tell us about this page and why you chose it and how does it represent your practice?
This page is really torn out of a stream of consciousness that I think, many writers may have had. When you're trying to write, we're all writers, we can say, but we don't all write under the same conditions. And blasphemy is really about the fact that, when we're running around at events and conferences and doing book signings and craft classes and fiction workshops, what's often never discussed is the conditions under which some of us have to write. And then by what I mean by that is the extreme conditions of racism, the worry that I have for my children is not the same that another writer might have for her children. And so it's something nobody wants to talk about. Everyone's so busy, putting on their best face and putting their best foot forward. And all of that's necessary. But at the same time, there are certain realities that plague us. And I think writers, myself in particular, I go out everything that that impacts my life and the lives of people that I care about. So blasphemy is really about, a moment, taking a moment to sort of unload the burden of the things that are constantly pervasive when you're trying to be positive and trying to be creative. Um, and it's not just the historical things that go on, but those things are still impacting us today. And then mixed in between that, you have the toxic social media environment, which I find more and more of a real hindrance to creativity. When you have so many people creating presenting a digitized self, and just scrolling and going through sound bites, and not really reading down through anything, but just taking the surface title of things. And all of this goes against what reading and writing and creativity and critical thinking is all about. That's something I think is desperately needed uh, in the world today, and revived today, so that we can all get back to our human selves of thinking for ourselves, and talking to each other, and really looking each other in the eye, and admitting certain things. So that's I think what inspired blasphemy.
What I'm interested into what you're talking about, I love that the lines where you're talking about there is no mahogany desk for me, there is no cabin in the woods and the stand of 300-year-old trees. Can you talk about how that impacts voice and how you define voice, or how you've come to know voice, against the battle of also what you talk about, the digitized gaze? People are showing or performing writing life versus or creative life. So talk a bit about how that's maybe clash, or help you to further sharpen your idea of what voice is for you and your work.
I think for me, it did really help sharpen, not having the opportunity to go off, for retreats. And, I never had the luxury of doing that. And having all this free time to write. So, the writing life, to embrace my life. Okay, my life is writing, and all of the things that impact my writing in my life. And so I came to a peaceful, came to make peace with it that way. I think there's a lot of mythology around down to the work, having with a roaring fire, or in my case, at the dining room table, while dinner's in the oven, or over lunch break, on a job, or at 3 o'clock in the morning, writing out notes, whatever that looks like. That's what it is. So, my voice came out of that experience, largely out of me just doing my best to embrace this situation that I found myself writing in, and the conditions I found myself writing under.
That makes a lot of sense. And I've not quite heard anyone put it that way in terms of the realness of some of what it takes. When you write and when you think about your voice or the page itself, do you have audience, or I know the question deals with thinking about performance in mind. What's in your process as you're thinking or penning your words, and then thinking about how they will be received through the ear and through the body?
Yeah, for me, I was I feel that it was always a benefit that I was able to shut everything out, and while I was writing. So, I wrote for the landscape in the world that I was trying to build. And, the characters became sort of standards that I was trying to reach in writing. So, I have a very insular world when I'm writing, and the audience is not something I think about. I'm usually fixated on the concepts and the themes. If anything, I'm concerned about how clearly those come across on the page. Later, of course, in the editing stage, then that becomes more and more important. How clearly is this coming through? But if you're writing for an, in my view, if you're writing for an audience or trying to um, uh, endear some segment of the population, you've already lost the war. Because writing to me is really about, it's an art form. It's a way of expressing our humanity, our lives, the ages that we've been through, the ages that we imagine, the experiences and how those experiences impact us. So, I think all artists in one medium or another, whether they be painters or songwriters or writers of books or of life, of the universe, and I think that's what we're trying to reach when we're doing our art. So even with a one page, it's in, even if it's in frustration as it was when I wrote down blasphemy, it's that desire to reach that higher plane that's above the fray of so many things that are not important.
As we wrap, what else would you like to add, or is there a question I didn't ask you that you would like to think about or pose an answer to?
I guess the one thing I would close out to is, everyone has their own path. Every writer has their own path. Every book is different. Every paragraph is different. Every sentence is different. Every word is different. So, we can only express, that's the beauty of each of us. We all have our own way of expressing, and no two ways are alike. So I think if I would leave anything, it would be travel it. Yeah.
Repeat that sentence one more time. I apologize. You cut out.
Embrace that path and travel it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Morowa, and thank you for your time. And I appreciate it. And what's gonna actually, let me just say stop recording.